Talk about the opposition manager. I mean, to what extent do you just study them, and to what extent do you study their team?
You have to do your due diligence on teams, of course you do. With you get match reports. You can watch with Y-Scout. You can watch their previous games and so on. I always think it's very, very important to concentrate on yourselves first and foremost. We're always respectful of oppositions, and like I said, you'd be foolish and lazy to not look at shapes and formations and tactics and players that they're bringing in and out. You have to do that. But I do genuinely think it's all about us. You can't look into them too much that it stops you planning for yourself and getting yourself right. You've got to make sure your own house is in order. So we concentrate more on us, I would 70-30, I would suppose. But listen, they're a good team. They're a good team. They were excellent last year. They've lost a couple of players, but they were really good team last year. So it's a great game. It'll be a really, really good game. Looking forward to it.
Injury-wise, how are you looking?
Ooh, Ed Palmer is fit for the squad. He's been 6 weeks. Krask and Tonks. Finn Tonks broke his nose against Hornchurch. We're hoping he'll be okay. Finn Krask had to go for an X-ray. We're awaiting the results of that. We hope he's okay. WJD, Will Jenkins Davis, had a tight hip flexor. So we've got a couple of, I would say, more knocks and niggles rather than glaring injuries. So we're not too bad. We've got a few who I should know a lot more about in the next 24 hours.
And what's Finn's injury?
Krask. He took a whack on his ankle.
Okay. And Oscar?
Oscar's was ill.
Yeah.
Oscar had the flu. He was rough. He's back training.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul.
No problem.
In your mind, Paul, we saw Jordan Young last season, and you obviously did as well.
Yeah.
And he impressed against us out wide as a right winger, really. I seem to remember the two games here. What's his, in your mind, what have you got in with him?
So one thing I didn't mention is versatility. Yeah, we all know he's creative. He can score goals. He's got pace. So Young, he can play as a centre forward. It would have to be in a 2. He can play as a 10, and he can play right side of a front 3 as well. So he brings 3 different options.
We were sitting here, or you've covered Jordan Young in some detail, but we were sitting here 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you were saying how disappointed you were about losing out on a player that you almost had a signature on a piece of paper. It's funny how these things work out. You've ended up with possibly a better player, or you've ended up with a player that maybe you were looking at in the first place?
Yeah, possibly. Only time will tell. I mean, we're thrilled to have him in. Mm-hmm. We think he improves the squad, which any player needs to do. If we're going to sign a player now, they have to improve the squad. There's no point signing someone who doesn't bring something different or is better than a player that we've got. Unfortunately, that's part of football, which isn't ideal, but that's the nature of the beast. So, first and foremost, we're thrilled to have him in. Sometimes, and I talk about it a lot, sometimes the stars have aligned. A couple of little bits have dropped into place with Jordan Young. I know his agent is also Lirak Hassani's agent, who I get on with great. I know a couple of people in at Yeovil, and it just happened. I think he's the sort of player that when his name comes up, it's a no-brainer to try and sign him. So, yeah, listen, we're really, really pleased we've got him for the next 2.5 years.
Were other clubs in for him?
Yes.
Good sign. And just looking back to the Hornchurch game, in your interview after the game, you talked about giving away bad goals, and that maybe gives you sleepless nights, giving away bad goals. Is that something you've been working on, not giving away possession outside the area, stuff like that?
Defensively, I think we've been really good this year. I think we've been really good. There will always be an element of human error, which you can't coach. The Hornchurch goals were poor. The frustrating thing, sorry, about the Hornchurch game was they got in our box twice. Sorry, they got in our box once, scored, and a shot from outside the box. I think there's a stat an old manager of mine used to say that if you score first in a game, 72% of the time you don't lose the game. You know, you might draw it, but you don't lose it. So all 3 games last week we conceded first. It's an uphill. You're giving yourself an uphill battle. So that's something we're obviously trying to stomp out. I don't think you can work on human error. I think defensively we've been okay. We're pretty solid. And the area of the pitch that needed addressing more was that little bit of creativity, that little bit of pace, which we've addressed this week. Not to say that we're not still looking for more, obviously. So, no, I think it's human error will always be a part of a football match, and part of a footballer's 90 minutes, I think.
You talked about not having met John Askey yet. Just wondered if you could tell us a bit about relationships between managers. I mean, Fergie famously would have a glass of wine with them afterwards. Is there any of that going on in this division? It's
become less and less. It's become less and less. I always invite the manager into the office for a beer afterwards, 100%. Some come in, some don't. I think it's like anything, Clive, in life. Some you get on with, some you don't. Some you speak to regularly, some you don't. I think it's like anything. There's a few in the league I speak to minimum once a week, and just have a chat about certain things. And there's some that I've never spoke to. And I'm sure there's some who don't want to speak to me either. So it's like, it's human nature. Some I do, some I don't. I always invite them in. It's great for me because I've got an office. I didn't have an office for 4 years at Truro, so there was nowhere to have a beer with them. So it's I'll always invite them in for a beer at 100%.
Last one really from me. Aberdeen are flying in the Premier League, so yeah. I would guess Warlock will try and take the credit for that. How are you getting on with him? Speaking to him regularly? What's his involvement at the minute?
Just got a phone to him about an hour ago. Neil is said on multiple occasions he's someone I've looked up to my whole football career. He's my manager when I was young at Plymouth. He's always on the end of the phone. I would say we speak 3 or 4 times a week. Not always about Torquay matters. Sometimes about life, sometimes about other things. But no, he's in good spirits. He's in good health. Great company, great to have around the players on a match day. He loves going in and having a bit of banter with them. And what I will say, he's great. Doesn't force his opinions onto me. But if I ask his opinion, he'll be very honest with it. And but he's never said to me, "I wouldn't have done that. Or I wouldn't do this." He's very supportive. He's someone I look up to immensely.
Great, cheers.
We're going into Saturday with an unbeaten home record, and I know the away record frustrates you. The away record frustrates you a bit at the moment, and I'm sure you've thought about it hour after hour after hour. Why are we better at home than we are away? Have you been able to? You and Mike been able to think about? Is it a mental, psychological thing with the players that maybe we're not quite as front foot away from home at start of matches as we are at home? What's your take on the difference?
So obviously our home form is better than our away form. I don't think our away form is poor. I think it's far from poor. I think we have picked up points. There will always be a different mentality when a football player is playing at home, playing away from home. I don't care what football player you are, and I don't care what football club you're playing for, and however many fans you're playing in front of. An away game is never the same as a home game, ever. Our mentality, I'm pleased with. Our psychology before a game, the boys are fully prepared before a game. They get looked after really, really well. I don't think we deserve to lose. I'm going to sound like every other manager. There's no way we deserve to lose to Farnborough 1-0. There's no way we deserve to lose 2-1 to Hornchurch 2-1. The Welling game. Talk about the disallowed goal, but were we great? Not really. I can't sit here and say we should have won the game. So no, we're okay. I mean, there is a different mentality, different psyche. Maybe there's some players good at home, not so good away from home. It does happen. It does happen where certain players can't play away from home, especially at places that are tough to go. You know, Hornchurch, it's not the prettiest of grounds. You know, and it takes a certain player to turn up there and roll up their sleeves and be ready to go to work. Maybe I picked the wrong team at Hornchurch, I don't know, but we definitely shouldn't have lost the game at Hornchurch. But our setup, I think as staff, you do set up different away from home than at home. Yeah, agreed. Whether that's in your subconscious or not, I'm not too sure.
Is this also part of the fact that, you know, we're only fairly still early in the season with a new squad of players who perhaps haven't got into the routine of, right, where are we this week? You know, boom, boom, boom. That may have still something to do with it.
I think there's definitely something in that, Dave. Is as we speak about, it's a pretty relentless league. You know, like we're going into 4 games now in, is it 11 days, 12 days? Saturday, Tuesday, and if you're not used to that,
5 and 14 or something.
Is it 5 and 14? Yeah. Makes it even worse. Cheers, Dave. So it's experience gets you through that.
Yeah.
You know, I always found it as a young lad more tiring playing that many games. As I got older, it was easier. I think you know your body, your experience, and how to recover between games. So we're going into a very busy period. But no, look, we'll be fine. We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to the games, as you said. We've got a lot of home games now in November, which is great. We want to play. I wish every game could be a. But obviously, next away game away to Salisbury, we'll deal with that on 5 o'clock Saturday.
Jordan's arrival, he'll obviously have to prove himself like any of the other players we've got. But what effect specifically do you think he'll have on the players around him, and will he change how you approach games or tactics?
I think when you sign good players, I think other players raise their game. That's what I think. I don't think you can ever have enough good players. Now, I'm not sitting here putting pressure on Youngie at all to say, you know, he's going to come and be the best player in the league again. It takes time. Players have to settle. You know, he's got a young baby and a missus to move down as well, and it's, you know, it takes time. There's a little bit of upheaval, isn't there? We all know moving house is an upheaval. It's a stress, you know, especially when you're moving from one place to another regionally. So, you know, listen, he's a top player. He's a top player. We're thrilled to have him here. And I genuinely think that when players come into training and show their quality, I think players up their game. And if they don't, they get left behind, unfortunately.
Can I ask one more, Paul? Tendencies here have been absolutely astonishing, really. To what extent has that actually helped you be able to bring in Jordan Young? I mean, has the fact the tendencies being so good helped your budget?
I'm sure. Helped my budget? Did you say?
Yeah.
The budget's the budget.
So that hasn't changed.
No, the budget's the budget. I think from a selling the club to a player, it helps. Who doesn't want to come and play at this level? Who doesn't want to come and play in front of a big crowd on Saturday and Tuesday? You know, so from that point of view, I think that definitely helps.